Okay, we just went live, and let's see. I think I got everything pulled up that I need. Let's see here. Facebook here, so I can answer any questions.
Well, you know, look at
It's nice to be able to rotate it. Hopefully that.
But on the other hand, it is a really good practice for Hebrew when you're doing the filter, because you have to be able to keep up with
Right.
reading the words.
Yeah.
You may not know what all of them say, but eventually, like, you start clicking, like, oh, I see that.
Well, you know
So
what?
it does help.
Where I realized that I'm starting to catch on is the days that I'm scroll, I'm sitting back there.
Yeah.
I can follow along in the English as you're chanting
Oh, that's great.
because I know just enough words that when you say it, I'm seeing it in the next line. Or at least this line.
Right. That, and probably you're starting to notice certain sounds when I come to an end of a sentence. You know.
Well, that, yeah, and then I figured out that a lot of this stuff gets repeated.
Yeah.
Okay, here's that again.
Yeah.
Here's that again.
Like this week's parsha, there's a lot of Hebrew repetition. It would actually be a good one for somebody who there's quite a bit of verses, but if you realize that most of the words that are there are repeated like 4 or 5 times, then you know if you're doing a bar mitzvah, that's actually an easier portion because you mean you have all these words you just keep on saying over and over again. It's just repetition, constant repetition of the same words, you know. So while it seems like it's long, it's actually a little bit easier. Okay, guys, we're going to do Kiddush. For this, anybody know what the Hebrew lesson? Anybody know what the shoresh is, the root of Kiddush is? You know
You
what the-
said that before.
What is the root of Kiddush? What is the shoresh of Kiddush? What is the default vowel pattern of the basic verb root? Anybody know what the default vowel pattern of the basic verb root is? What
Isn't
was-
it Kamas,
close. It's kamatz patak. So, I basically just gave you the answer. Okay, so if I give you a root and you know what the syllables are, if you know what the default vowel pattern is, then you know what the root is. So, what is the root of kiddush? Kadash. There we go.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a kamatz and a patak, so ka dash, right? But if you use the same syllables. So kadash means generally it means to set apart, something of that nature, make holy. So the u sound in kiddush tends to be a passive form. And so if you take the basic verb, which means to be set apart, which is kadash, you add that u sound in there, kiddush, and what might it mean? If you know that's a passive form.
See, this is why we need to have that.
Does anybody know what a passive form is? What does it mean to be passive? Like, have you ever heard the term passive aggressive?
I don't know what that is.
So the main two things are actives and passives, right? An active means what? It's
There's action.
there's action happening towards something, right? That's an active, right? Passive, in regards to a verb, because we're talking about a verb, so we're talking about action. In regards to action, what is a passive?
No
No.
He's talking about
Actions happening.
It's
That
indirectly.
happened, but it's,
What's that?
it happened, but it's not.
Passive means it's happening to you.
Uh,
So for instance, if I were to hit you in the shoulder, I'm actively committing that action, right? But if I'm the subject and you're hitting me in the shoulder, I'm receiving that action, which is a passive action.
Okay, I can got that.
Right. So sometimes when people are passive aggressive, it's, you know, they're not right out being aggressive towards you, but they're doing it in these kind of passive, you know, ways where as the things are happening to them, they're just kind of like reacting in, you know, kind of grumpy ways, but they're not actively getting at you.
Oh,
That's what passive aggressive is. It's kind of a sneaky aggressiveness. Anyways.
I just prefer when people are mad.
Yes, and I do too. All right, are we ready to bless? Mr. Baruch, why don't you grab your toast, your cup there? Let's bless. Nevrech. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pori hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Amen. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe who creates the fruit of the vine. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe who sanctified us through his commandments and has commanded us to be occupied with the words of the Torah. Abba, we thank you for this time and this place, brothers and sisters to study with. Pray for wondrous things from your Torah. Our heart, Abba, conform our lives to it, Father, and Abba, we just want to know you more through your word. The time that we are spending here today would be an acceptable offering and an act of worship towards you, Abba. Bless you, we thank you. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen. Chaim Yeshua. All right, guys. So we, once again, are on... You want any more grape juice? I forgot to make this big one. No? You want some fresh grape juice? It's cold. Whole cup of it? All right. Okay, so we are in Sefer Shemot, the book of Exodus, and for those who are following us online, you can go to blbclassic.org. That's blbclassic.org, and you can just go into the field where you type in the verse. You can just type in Exo 9:31, and then once you get there, click on the C, the icon that says C, and that will take you to the concordance, which will show you all the Hebrew very clearly that we are looking at, because you'll not be able to see that through the camera at the screen. Once again, blbclassic.org, chapter 9, verse 31 of the book of Exodus. There is a link on our live streaming page to this resource. If you just click on that, then you'll just, right now it's not pointing to the right chapter and verse, but you'll have to just navigate from there. All right. That's, you snooze, you lose.
Let's close it up.
Exactly. The zealous shall inherit the Hebrew. Ken, ve'apishta.
So the shortish is Mishtal,
Mm-hmm.
black,
Yep.
and the vav is a conjunction
Mm-hmm.
and.
Yep.
And now the suffix on that one is the third person female singular, right? That
Yes.
is the hey and
Yeah. It's just it's
or the mas, sorry.
it's the feminine. Yeah, it's the feminine form here of this.
Yeah. So and Aklox? I don't know what it is talking about.
What is this right here? The hay with the patak. Before that noun.
Is that the female?
No.
I don't know what that is.
That is the, if anybody else doesn't know this, write this down. When you have a hay with a patak before a noun, this is dealing with a noun, not a verb. When it's before a noun, it is the definite article.
Oh, the.
Hay with a patak before the noun is the definite article, which means the. Yes. Otherwise, the noun would be in an indefinite status, and you would communicate that with the word a or an, depending on how the word's spelled there. How would you translate this one more time? Yeah, and the flax. So,
How come you wouldn't use like
Well, you could if the context fits that. The kamatse can be a pronominal suffix, translating it that way, but it's simply the female ending.
Okay.
It's just a feminine indication
Okay.
here.
So in the flag.
Yep, and the flax. And it's interesting here in the, it's listing this as a feminine noun already, even with this spelling, although it looks like a masculine spelling. The sigil hey, that ending. But it looks like it's just simply
But it's interesting.
going with the true feminine form here.
That they say that the transliteration with the Sabol is still Ishta.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not used to.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. So I'm wondering if they just if they may have, it's probably is just a maybe an irregular form. No, actually, I think they just misspelled it in the Hebrew. And they but they do it right with their transliteration here, because they they do say pishta, so I think they just put the wrong vowel there, to be honest with you. Not only because they transliterated it correctly and in Hebrew spelled it incorrectly, but if you take a look at the Strong's definition, note how they spelled it. But on the other hand, Gesenius lexicon spelled it pishte. Well, I guess they also note the form we have here is pishta. So there's two different forms. Both of them apparently are feminine. This, like I said, this right here looks like a masculine ending to me. There are some words, though, that can go either way. Generally, either one or the other, but... All right, so, and the flax. So let's take a look at this here. This word is directly connected to biblical linen. And this can be of doctrinal significance. Anyways, if you take a look at here, pishta is flax of the plant. If you go to its etymology there, it comes from peshet, which can mean flax, right? But it is where we get the word for linen in Hebrew. Flax, the peshet is most often used as linen, 9 times throughout the Tanakh, but 7 times as flax. And so, in the days of old, that is what you made linen out of, was flax. And so, when the scriptures talk about linen, it is talking about a flax-based clothing or fabric. It's just not some synthetic or whatever you call linen. Biblically, it was a flax-based product. So technically, if it was not made out of flax, it would not technically the biblical linen. And why might that be significant?
Because you're not supposed to mix wool.
Exactly right. So some people are like, oh, am I going to be transgressing this by this product that has wool and synthetic? Because I'm thinking the synthetic is linen. You know what I'm saying? So it's specific. And indeed, the very
Will they
word
actually say that
for
it's
flax,
On the tag?
very word for linen is related to the word for flax. It's comes in the same bread.
So if it says synthetic linen, it doesn't count.
Or-
It has to count.
Well, it's not. Yeah, if we're calling it a synthetic linen, it's not biblical linen.
Gotcha.
That's like calling a synthetic wool. You know what I'm saying? So, do you break the commandment by mixing synthetic wool with synthetic linen? No, I don't think so.
I get it.
You might have the appearance of evil, but technically you're not really breaking the mitzvah. It's kind of like turkey bacon. You know, looks like bacon, smells like bacon, tastes like bacon, but it's not bacon.
What? No, it doesn't. Tastes good. Bacon looks disgusting.
Okay. So,
I don't think they taste the
well, I'm
same.
glad you associate that, but they do. I think they taste pretty much the same. But just from my memory from way in days of old when I was living like a heathen. Anyways, so let's go down to the next word here, Nehemiah. Again, behase ora.
And the root is Seora.
Seora, Ken. Yep.
Can't- Is that right?
Yeah, barley. So what's the hay here?
It's and the bonds
And the barley, yeah. Seorah comes from this this root here of sa'ar, which means to like tremble, and so it can be used in various different contexts. But if you can imagine a field with like wind going through it, these things are kind of trembling, and so you this word for barley comes from really to storm, to shiver, to bristle, dread, to be very afraid. So there's different contexts in which this word can be used, but that is how barley got its name. All right, so and the barley. So and the flax and the barley and bauch. Almost, try it again. Nukata. Yes. Nukata. Mahashorosh nukata. Naka, yeah. So what does naka mean? Yeah, it means to smite. It's like, think of this. Naka! Like doing a karate chop. Just like that. So it's technically nacha, but nacha means to strike. This one could be a tricky one. In this particular case, we have most of the root letters. Sometimes this root, because it is made up of so many weak letters, such as the nun and the hay, sometimes all you have left is the kaf to identify it. But we know that the nun and the kaf here is the root, and so we have the tav kamatz hay, and that's that is adding a little bit more information. We have that oo sound underneath the nun. Now, based on what I was telling you earlier about that, when you hear a oo sound in a verb, does anybody remember what that communicates? Remember I was having a whole conversation about kiddush? Just talking about this. Anybody remember what the oo sound represents in a verb?
No.
Okay, write this down. The oo sound in a verb represents the passive form. So if the verb is, in this particular case, it looks like it is the PL, which is it's the intensive or the intentional action. Let me just check here. Yeah. So the pual is the passive of the PL. PL to pual. Pual includes the oo, which is the again representative of the passive. PL is the intensive or the intentional action of PL, which is the intensive or intentional action. It's just the passive of that.
Hold on, I did write it down.
So, oh good. All right, so if we go back here. So once you figure out what tenses, what binyan we're looking at, you can look at the word, the verb read. You can click on that concordance number, and it'll say, okay, here's the nifal meaning, here's the pual meaning. Once you understand what it is, then you can a little better translate what you're looking at there. So nifal can also be a passive. That's just in the active instead of the intensive. That's just the simple. It's the passive of the simple, which is the call. So the pual is the passive of the intensive or the intentional action. In both cases, they really in this particular case, it doesn't really change the meaning so much from the nifal to the pual. But as you can see, it means to be stricken. The person is receiving the action, and that's what makes it passive. Otherwise, to be hit would be the active. In this case, this verb is not manifested in the Tanakh with the call form, which is the simple active. What was your question?
I think you printed out like a sheet for me one time, like these little characters with the passive and the aggressive.
Well, there's no aggressives, but
Well, you know what I mean.
yeah,
Passive and
actives.
thank you.
Yeah.
Either way, I remember you printed something for me like that. I don't know what it
Hmm.
But it was like this little person being.
Oh yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. I do have that. I can send that to you if you remind me.
Yeah.
I can't recall if that's one of the resources we have on our website for one of the links, but it may be. I think it may be. But yes, it goes through the various different binyanim, and then in that particular case, it's the guy with the he has like a gun or something, and he's like pointing it at somebody, and then in one case he's pointing it at himself, which is actually hitbel, which is the reflexive form, where you're committing the action, but it's towards yourself, as opposed to you receiving the action from somebody else.
Yeah.
So
That makes
that's
sense.
reflexive. But okay, so anyways, the kamatse on this particular ending here is the pronominal suffix in this particular case. It's mainly context because these all look the same here. These are just feminine endings in this case. The kamatse is technically her, but because we're dealing with inanimate objects, we're probably going to translate it as it or something of that nature. But does anybody know why the kamatse ending is on the end of this verb, this pronominal suffix is end on this verb for to strike or to be stricken?
No?
Think of what is being affected rather. What you doing there, buddy?
Barley and then
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now getting closer.
oh, because they are feminine.
They are feminine, so it's referring to what is being stricken. She is being stricken, which technically the barley and the flax is in the feminine. They're she's, but you're probably gonna say it. So it was stricken. So the flax and the barley were stricken. And it's just listing it in the singular feminine as they are found, and it doesn't put it in a plural. It's just referring to them individually.
Okay.
But they were stricken or smote.
So would you say that it's kind of like when you have a kind of an indirect object or something like that? But instead of being like at the beginning,
Ye,
it would be at the beginning?
no, yeah, you make a good point in regards to not having the aleph tav, which is usually what's happening when you have a verb preceding the object which is being directly affected. In this case, we have the passive verb being listed after the two nouns, and yeah, we don't have the sign of the direct object, so it looks like it's indirect, but both of the objects are definite, which would usually require a direct. I'm thinking that it may be just the placement of the verb, but it might be have to do with the passive form as well on that. But it is that verb is describing the two previous nouns which are being affected there, the flax and the barley. But we also know that it's pointing to that because of the case ending, the feminine case ending.
Right. No, I get that.
Yeah. Only other possibility I was about to say that it might be a hey local, which is a directional term. Maybe it's directing the action in that way instead of using the sign of the direct object towards. We're stricken towards to it. I think it's a feminine ending is what this is. The hey local does look like exactly like that, like a feminine ending, but I don't think that's what it is. Usually the context will. We'll have one, I think, in the next verse or two, where the context is clearly showing direction and movement. And so we do have an action here, so that's, but I don't think it is. I think it's just the feminine. It's just referring to these two feminine nouns. Okay, so the addition of the tav is how you would accomplish that, because it does, this verb ends with a hey. Right, so where did I go there? Where did I go? There it is. So you can see that it verb ends with a hey, and so when you add a pronominal suffix, you have to change the hey to a tav to connect it. And that's what happened in this particular case. Okay, so let's keep on trucking here. You already went, right, Baruch?
Yeah.
Okay, and Gidon. Ki. Yeah, for, that, because, not they, but yeah, for that or because key. So that's a word particle you'll see all the time. Get a lot of mileage off of that one. For, I'd say for in this case. And Michelle.
Asura?
Yeah, and then the emphasis would go on the end there.
Yeah. Asura.
Right, haseora. So the emphasis goes right. Instead of sora, it's haseora at the end.
But why are we saying the Shabbat if the top is a short sound?
Good question. Why do we do?
Oh, because of the little doggy.
Because of the dogish. Yes, that's one of the vocal Shabbat rules. If you have a letter where the Shabbat is underneath it and that letter has a dogish, that
Okay, you have to ora.
Shabbat
Does
is
that
vocal.
matter?
Yes, haseora.
Okay.
Yep.
So the hate is a definite article V.
Yep.
The shorish is seora,
Seora. Yeah.
which is the whole word.
Mm-hmm. The barley.
The barley.
Yeah.
So the barley.
The barley. Good. Tamil.
It's still the feminine
Mm-hmm.
but it's
Yep.
part of the shorish.
Yep.
You wouldn't have to
Yep.
the barley.
Yep. Exactly. Tov. Wait, Nehemiah.
Aviv.
Aviv.
And it
Aviv. Yes. It can mean ear, or it can mean fresh. Something. It can mean something that's fresh, or depending on context, it can mean a couple different things. It can mean spring, like in conversational Hebrew, it refers to the spring, the season of spring. But it refers to something that's fresh. It could refer to young barley ears in the context of something that's fresh. It could be referred to the month of the ear forming, which is the spring time. So I think in this case we're dealing with something that's kind of a freshly grown budded thing. Okay, Baruch. Try it again. Is that a zere underneath the pay there? P. And in this case, the Shiva is silent. So try it again. Remember, it's a charik underneath the pay. Mm-hmm. Good. Vehapishta. Mahashrosh vehapishta. Yep. So what's pishta? Yeah, the flax. So how would you translate vehapishta? What's the ha there? Mm-hmm. Da. Yeah. How would you translate the whole thing? Vehapishta. And the flax. Good job. All right. And Gidon. Givol. Can. Givol. What is Givol? What it basically means is to bud. It's an interesting word that they use there. I've never heard that. It's a big archaic. So bud. It means to bud. So givol comes from gavia, which refers to a cup or a bowl. So if you think, that's probably why they use the word bowl. I kind of think of it now. But I think of a bud. It kind of looks like almost like the backside of the bowl, you know.
I was looking at pictures of that flax. And it's like a flowering, you kind of, I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting that. So
Yeah.
So I can see it, the flowering plant is sitting there like
Oh, right, yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And you're going to have buds inside there, of course, but as it does that, that's what it looks like. So, yeah, it's a good point. Shalom. All right, so givol. So maybe you can think of givol as a bowl. You can just kind of look at the word bowl and think of that. Okay. So let's go on to the beginning and let's read this together. Baruch and Nehemiah, make sure you're reading actually Hebrew. Okay. Ve'apishta, ve'haseora, nukata, ki, haseora, aviv, ve'apishta, givol. The translation is, and the flax and the barley, it was stricken. She was stricken. For the barley was fresh, and the flax was budded. It just means a bud, so it's like the flax was a bud, you know. It's like the chase was a foot, something of that nature, you know. It's kind of how it is in the Hebrew there. Because if you take a look, you know, these various different versions are paraphrasing, but as you can see, is givol a verb or a noun? It's a noun. So you can't use this word as a verb as these translations want to.
But that was just that it's a masculine noun. So
Right.
the masculine noun was used at the end of all that feminine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep.
I thought when you were referring to feminine things that you had to keep the context in the
If you are using a pronominal suffix, you do. But here we just have the simple word for a bud. And the bud on these feminine things, the bud itself is masculine. It's kind of like on men, right? Men are masculine, right? We can all agree about that. Okay. So on men, technically in Hebrew, there are a bunch of different feminine things.
Oh, the body parts are feminine. Not,
Well, not all of them.
but most of them.
The ones that come in two are. In general, there's exceptions to that. And vice versa, there's certain things on women that are actually masculine.
I get your point, Silas.
Yep.
Well played.
Yep. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look here at the cantillation marks. All right, Mr. Brookie, what you doing over there? I don't want you drawing pictures, okay? So v'hapishta, we have the mercha underneath that tav, and the mercha coming before a tipcha, because merchas can change their sound depending on what they come before. Before the tipcha, they've got mercha tipcha combination that sounds like this. Mercha, v'hapishta. Wherever the cantillation mark, that's where the emphasis goes. Everything before that is a monotone type of a sound. And then for vehaseora, we have the tipcha underneath that resh. And that's tipcha, vehaseora. These are probably some of the most common of the ta'amim, of the cantillation marks. And if you think about it, this looks like a downward sloping like ramp. So it's going down. Mercha, and then the up one that's sloping upward, tipcha, kind of sounds like what it looks like. And so if you imagine it that way, it'll be easier to memorize. You can take a look at any of these, and it's you could think of what it sounds like just by looking at it. Okay, so we have nukata, where we have the etnakta. It looks like a wishbone. It's pointing upward. And the adnakta sounds like this. You got the monotone sounds. Eknata, nukata. Notice how that has a little, like this little thing that points up. Just goes straight up in that sound. It's a pausal form. The mercha here is a servant trope, which makes a combination with this tipcha, which is a minor lord, which just breaks up the combination here. The eknakta, again, is a major lord. It's pausal, and so it can represent either a comma or a period, and there's a longer space after that. So then we have the word ki, where we have the mapak. The mapak is a servant trope, making it a combination with the next word, and the mapak sounds like this. Mapak, ki. Then we have haseora, where we have a pashta over the top of that hey, and that's a minor lord, and the pashta sounds like this. Pashta, haseora. And then over aviv, we have the zakevka tone, which is another major lord. It's pausal, and then it sounds like this. Zakevka tone, aviv. When I read through the Hebrew, you'll notice I'll come to pauses. I'll like bring my voice down to indicate a kind of a stop. Then we have vihapishta again, where we have a tipcha underneath it in this particular case. And again, that's tipcha, vihapishta. It's minor lord. And then we have the sof pasuk, which is the end of the verse. This vertical line, which is the siluk, shows where the emphasis goes for the sof pasuk. Sof pasuk, givol. So let's do a fluid chanting of our text with the combinations together. Ve'apishta ve'haseora. Let's try it again. Ve'apishta ve'haseora. Try it one time. Ve'apishta ve'haseora. Moving on. So we have the next word there, nukata. Try it again. Nukata. Ki haseora. Aviv. Ve'apishta. Givol. Tov me'od. All right, we're moving down here to verse 32. Tade linon. Guess what that Greek word there is equivalent to in the Hebrew?
Say that one again?
Ta de linon.
Linen.
Yes, linen. Yeah, that's the that is the equivalent of the Hebrew word there. It's interesting though that it uses that, even though it's talking about flax here, the actual plant. In the Greek, it's actually linon. Lambda, iota, so on and so forth. What's that?
Their lettering is so weird.
It's actually easier to learn than the Hebrew because so many of them look the same.
Yeah?
Some of them don't. Like this is an N. This is an N sound, but this is the the omicron. This is an iota, which is like an I. This is a lambda, which is the L. But here it kind of looks like a K, like a it's the kappa, alpha, iota. So you could look at this and look, oh, that kind of looks like chi, and that's what it is. Yeah.
So does Greek read from right to left?
No, from left to right. Yeah. But it's actually Greek is a Semitic text. The language itself that developed afterwards is not really Semitic, but the text itself is based off the Phoenician Hebrew,
Oh, interesting.
which some people call Paleo-Hebrew. But if you go and you take a look at the Phoenician Hebrew and you compare it to the Greek text, you're like, oh, it's Greek. So the Phoenicians brought them this lettering system, and then later on they went dynamic. All right. So chapter 9, verse 32. Yep. All right. Yotera. Too bad. Ken.
The Vav is the conjunction and, the Hey is the definite article V, and Kiha
Yep. And the wheat. When I look at this word, the way I can kind of remember it is, and I kind of have a convoluted way of remembering it is. Have you guys ever seen cheatgrass before?
Seen what?
Cheatgrass?
I don't know.
It's that stuff that like gets stuck in like your dog's hair or in, you know, in your sock.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
It kind of looks like wheat, to me at least. It does.
I
If you had a
don't-
whole field of it, it would kind of look like wheat almost. Anyways, so when I look at this chita, I think of cheat, you know, the cheatgrass, and so I think of wheat. Anyway, so and the wheat, and Nehemiah. Yep, emphasis right here. Say it again with the emphasis right. Yeah, Vehaku Semet. Yeah, when you have two sigil, I mean, you obviously have the cancellation mark here, so it shows where the emphasis goes. But when you have two sigols next to each other, it's called a sigolet, and the emphasis goes on the first sigil. Kusemet. Yeah, rye or spelt or something like that. Okay, so you know what kusemet is. What's the rest of it? Yep, and the rye. All right. Baruch, got a nice and easy one. Low. What does low mean? Yep, no or not. It's a negative article. So, I mean, you can have a low, Hebrew word low spelled with a vav, the cholam malay. In that case, it would be that pronominal suffix meaning to him or his. But in this case, with this aleph, it is the negative particle, negating anything that comes after it. All right. And Gidon, stop drawing your little pictures, buddy. A little bit too old for that. Try it again. Nuku, yeah, nuku, yeah. Mahasharash nuku. From Naka, that's right. And what, you remember what Naka means? To smite Naka. If that's helpful. Otherwise you can strike that from memory. But, so, do you remember what we were talking about when it came to the oo sound in a verb? Passive form, ding ding ding, yay, someone was listening. All right, good job.
When I draw,
Get-
it integrates with
Yeah, actually.
Is that so? Wait, oh boy, okay. Enough for the peanut gallery over there. So, what about the pronominal suffix that we have here?
That means
Really, it's just a verbal suffix, not a pronoun. But they often look the same
his
or similar. No, the oo sound is not his. O or a V sound would. I'm asking Gideon. Yes, it means they. Okay, so whenever that's the normal plural ending is a oo on the verb. So nuku, what does that mean then? Lo nuku.
Ka means smite.
Or strike.
They smited.
But
Oh,
mem-
passive.
Passive, yeah. So they're not smiting anything. Remember how passive works? Having to be quiet.
Well, the type passive means it's not you're doing it to yourself.
No, that's reflexive, but you're right. You're getting closer. The idea is something else is doing something to you.
Right.
You're receiving the action as opposed to committing the action.
So yeah.
So how would you translate nuku? Hmm? No, it's the oo is the they. Remember?
Yeah. So
You're close. Just use that word I just used.
I already know that's they. It's smite.
Passive.
I know that. It's smited me. Smite.
They were smited.
Worse.
They were smote. They were stricken. Okay, so lo, what, so then how would you translate lo nuku?
Low.
Mm-hmm.
No means. No, they were slack.
They were not smitten, or they were not struck. Yeah. Okay. So v'hachita v'hakusemet lo nuku is, and the wheat and the rye were not struck or struck down or smitten or something of that nature. Okay. And we'll keep on rolling to Michelle. Key.
That because for four, little is
Four, yep. Sure, that works.
four.
Really good.
Then
Okay.
it's not submitted.
Yeah, I think I think four works perfect. You could use because too would work too, but either one is perfectly fine on this, I think, for the context. All right, Nehemiah.
Um,
Afilot.
Mm-hmm.
and
Not exactly. The idea is that they're kind of, that they're immature, or they're new, or, how else are they trying to do this? Late, or,
Well, no, I guess they're not. It's not that it's new. It's that it's late or it's ripe.
wait a second. Strong's is going with unripe, not grown up, which is what I was initially thinking. Feel. Hold on, what are they trying to communicate here? Late of slow growth. Oh, okay. So they're not late in the sense of old. Because I was thinking they were like
It's running.
immature.
Time.
Yeah, that's what I was initially thinking.
Yeah.
And so I just got confused because they were saying late and then ripe, which to me it sounds like it's older, but it's not. It's like slow growth. So they're like not mature, like I mentioned.
Do you know why they threw the word ripe in there then? Because ripe tells me to.
Like it's ready. It's on time.
You just call that right.
Anyways, yeah, unripe, not grown up is the idea there. They're not mature yet. So the word there for not grown up, the word not is not there. It's just the idea of I feel is telling us that in the word itself, they're not there yet.
It's implied.
They're immature, or they were, I guess you could just say not grown up. Yes, immature, giddy. Okay, and
Wait, before you go
yep.
on, because I know we did the shortish on there, but there's still a Tav at the end.
Yes,
That
that's
doesn't belong there. So is that making it an active person?
No.
What is that doing?
What is when you see on
the end of a word sometimes the cholam, tav, or sometimes you're going to have a cholam malay, tav. What is that generally?
That's what I'm asking you. But I don't know what
What is the plural ending for the masculine form?
it is.
Im. What is the plural ending for the feminine form? Oat. So you just answered your own question.
Amen.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
Yep. You're welcome. So sometimes you will not have the cholam malay. You'll just have the cholam and the tav. Now, why is this in plural?
Because the previous one was referring to they.
Exactly right.
instead of
Yep.
just-
Yep. Good. All right. Yep. It's a good question. I'm glad you asked it. Baruch.
Hena. Yep. Hena. What's Hena? Yeah, good job. Personal pronoun. It's the elongated personal pronoun of what personal pronoun? Well, you looked on your sheet to get this answer, right? Oh, you looked through it. Okay. So look on your back of your sheet there, and you have your personal pronouns. This is a form that's not used as often. It's a prolonged version of what personal pronoun? Back of your handout that you have here for your sheet. Don't you have your personal pronouns in the back there? On the very back page. Anybody can tell me at this point. No, not an Aknu.
I see like independent.
Huh? No. Because it means they. We already know it means they.
Oh,
Hena.
I see it.
So this is the prolonged version.
Person, female, singular.
So this is the prolonged version of what personal pronoun? You didn't tell me the actual pronoun though. This Hena is the prolonged version of
Hey.
Hain. There we go. That's what I was looking for.
Well,
Hena
don't hate.
is the prolonged version of Hain. They both mean the same thing though. All right, good. Excellent. Metsuyan. All right, so let's go back here. Let's read this together, and then we'll take a look at the cancellation marks. Vehachita. Vehasu, rather ku. So let's try that again. Vehaku semet. Lo. Nuku. Ki. Afilot. Hena. Okay, so the translation here is, and the wheat and the rye, they were not stricken for, not grown up. I would like to do it some other way. For immature. I'm just saying it's the word. They were immature. Basically that. Okay. So let's take a look at the cancellation marks. Going back to vehachita, we have a mercha again before tipcha. So this mercha is the normal one. Mercha, vehachita, servant tropes. So this combination. Then we have the tipcha underneath the samech there. Tipcha, vehaku semet. It's a minor lord. Then we have the munak here, which is a servant trope coming before eknakta, because the munaks can change depending on what comes after it. This munak sounds like this. Munach. And then we just have one syllable, so we're just going straight down. Lo. And then the eknakta is eknakta. Nuku. It's a pausal form, so there's a break there. And then we have another mercha tipcha combination. Mercha. Ki. Tipcha. Afilot. Sof pasuk. Hena. Combination of the cancellation marks here. Vehachita vehaku semet. Try again. Vehachita vehaku semet. Lo nuku. Ki afilot. Hena. Tov me'od. We're making such good yes, we might even have time to go through the Greek here. Hade puras kai he alura uk eplege apsima gar hein. All right. Verse 33. Gidon. Try it again. What is it? Try it again. Vayetse. Vayetse. Mahashorsh vayetse. What is the root of vayetse? Ma? Mahashorsh? Yatsa. To go out, good. Yep, yatsa means to go out, so we know that is the root here. And then we have, what do we have here? Conjunction, yep.
Which means, and to go out.
Well, we have the yod here.
E,
Technically, a yod was added to the front of this. It is dagesh, so it's like a double yod.
going out.
So you could think of the first yod still being there, but sometimes the yod will drop off and get replaced with a prefix.
And he went out.
And he went out, yeah. So the yod there as a prefix can be translated as he. Normally it would be in future tense, but the vav of the patak reverses tenses. And so that's known as the vav hahipuk, or the conversive vav. So, and he went out, as opposed to and he will go out. Vayetse. All right. And Michelle,
Moshe,
Moshe.
Moses,
Yep.
which means to draw,
It's technically not a passive. We have an OA, which is an active verb combination, or vowel combination rather. So technically it means drawing. We often translate it as to be drawn out, but it's not completely accurate. So while he was drawn out, and that's kind of where he got his name, the idea is that his name means drawing, and God actually used Moshe to draw out, to actively draw out the people of Israel. Okay, so otherwise we would have Moshe. Because that would be the passive to be drawn out, right? He's not mushy. He's Moshe. I don't think Moshe was a very mushy guy. Yeah, it's true. He could be
now when
sappy.
you're meeting
I doubt
like
it though.
thousands
Oh,
of people.
Yeah. No.
Probably not a good thing to be very mushy at this point.
All right, so we'll keep on rolling to Nehemiah. Oh, did you want to try? Okay, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I can do it. Well, that's a ayin and a samach.
That's a mem safit, not a samech. So we have mem, ayin, mem safit. And then underneath the mem, we have a tzere making the A sound, and underneath the ayin, a chirik making the E sound. No, the last letter is a mem safit making the M sound, the closing M sound. So let's start with the first consonant and vowel combination. We have a mem here that makes the M sound, and underneath the mem we have the vowel tzere, which makes the A sound. So together, what sound do they make? May, yeah. And so underneath the ayin, which is silent, we have the chirik making the E sound, closing it with the M sound. Me'im, yeah, the whole, yeah. No, not ma'im, me'im. So me is the preposition meaning from, and the word im means with. So me'im means from with, literally. Yep. So vayetze Moshe me'im is, and Moshe went out from with. We'll find out with who he's with in the next word there. All right, Nehemiah. Arbo. Yep, that's Pharaoh. Yep. Paro. All right, and Baruch. Try this first part again. Et, hot ear, good. What is the et? Yeah, sign of direct object. Pointing back from the verb to what the verb is affecting here. And then what does the Hebrew word ear mean? Yeah, city. So like for instance, you go to Israel, you're going to go to the place called Ir David, which means what? Ir David. What's Ir David? City of David. Yeah. So what is the ha here? The. So what's ha ear? The city, yeah. The reason why it's a kamatz here and not a patak as it normally would be underneath the hay is because of the guttural letter that comes after it. The guttural letters can't take a dagesh, so what happens, it goes through compensatory lengthening to the longer vowel, the kamatz. Otherwise, you would normally see, as you see right here, a hay patak for the definite article. But it means the same thing. There's no difference in the meaning from here to here. It just depends on what consonant you have coming afterward. Yeah. So, and he went, that is Moshe with Paro. The idea is, went out of the city. Okay, and Gidon. Try it again. Yeah. Vayifros. Mahashorosh Vayifros. You have your sheet there, don't you? Yep. Paras. What is it? So yeah, the idea is like to spread, or I think maybe even scatter, depending on the context. Here, paras is to spread out, stretch, break in pieces. The idea is he's spreading out something. Okay, and so you know that's the root. That's the root of the verb. Vav is and the yod is he in this case. Yeah. So how would you translate vayifros? He spread out, yeah. And he spread out. Yep, good. All right, and Michelle?
Fine. I don't know where the translation mark is.
Try it again.
Fine? Or
Kapav, yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. Kapav.
So, I was a little confused on this one,
Uh-huh.
but I think, I know that kaf is the shorish, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kaf in the, okay,
Mm-hmm, yeah.
right?
Yep.
And the vav is doing something.
Yep.
And
So kaf is, it's also the, how you spell the name for the Hebrew letter. And think of that kaf kind of looking like this, but what it is it's the palm of the hand.
okay.
Yeah, and so some translations will translate it as hands, which it technically is because your palm's part of your hand, but really it's palms. And so the kamatz yod vav ending, the vav itself is just the third person masculine possessive singular form. You can translate it as his, but when you put that yod vav, and usually that kamatz is underneath the letter preceding that, that's a plural form. So whatever is being possessed is in the plural. So instead of his palm, it's his palms. Yeah, literally
Yeah,
it's.
this came up a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. We had the same one.
Right.
I think it was last week, in fact.
Was it
Yeah.
last week?
Yeah. So that's just a
yeah.
pluralizing form. So if you take a look at your pronominal suffixes on the back of your sheet there, you'll see the differences. Type 1, type 2, I think is how it's being listed. Type 1 is whatever's being possessed is in the singular. Type 2 is whatever is being possessed is in the plural. And that's the distinction there.
Okay. Oh, okay, I see where it is.
That make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it would be like, it's that.
So it's usually that yod that's added right before the normal ending. For instance, I think it uses the form sus, like a horse, maybe there. And let's just say that cha is the normal second person masculine possessive form, so you'd say sus cha, your horse. But if you wanted to pluralize horses, that which is being possessed, you'd be susecha. You just add that yod before the cha to pluralize whatever is being possessed. Okay, so we have the next one here, Nehemiah. Oh, no, we're good. Sorry, keep on skipping Pam there. Sorry. Want to try this first one here? What's that again? Try this first one here.
Oh, yeah.
L, yep, good job. And this is just the tetragrammaton, the Yod He Vav He, Baruch Hu. So, how would we translate? Do you know what L means, by the way? That's a good guess. But L here, because the consonants are the same, and in some cases even the vowel is the same, if it's kind of like a construct form. But L here in this case is a preposition meaning to. Yeah. So to Hashem. So Vayifros kapav el Hashem is and he stretched out his palms towards Hashem. So when Moshe is praying to Hashem, this is how Moshe prays. The scriptures tell us that Rav Shaul wishes to see men everywhere, I'm sure women too, lifting up holy hands. This is a biblical thing. So they've been doing it for a while. So let's move on to Baruch, who's just over there helping himself to something. Oh yeah, sorry. I was going to go to you, but I had to backtrack. Sorry. My brain is all over the place here. Try this first part. Vayach. The first Shavah, when you have two Shavahs in a row, the rule is this. The first Shavah is silent, the second Shavah is vocal. You put the consonant before the vowel. And then this is a shuruk. There you go. Vayach delu. Vayach delu. Mahashorsh vayach delu. Yep. You got chadal down there, which means, to cease, stop something. Okay, so we know that that is the root. Everything else is not the root and modifying the verb. How do we understand this? The vav is the and we're not going to go with he. You know why? Yoda's masculine. No, not because of Bumaf rule. I'll just randomly start throwing rules out. Because remember, when you're dealing with the yod, you always have to look what's on the end to see if it's singular or plural. The yod is masculine, but don't think just because it's masculine that it's singular. You is second person. He would be third person, so now you're just going to go with the plural third person, masculine. No, that's first person. What's plural third person? They. Yep. No, you don't need to throw you in there. Remember, it's all third person. And they ceased. Just like that. Yeah. Good job. Vayachtelu. They ceased and they stopped. All right, now it's Brooke's turn. What vowels are above the kof and the vav there? Cholam. What sound does the cholam make? Oh, yeah. No, with the cholam malay, the vav is silent, right? Yep. Hakolot. Hakolot. What is the root of kolot? Kol, yeah. Kol, which it literally means a voice or a sound. It's kind of a paraphrase, translated as a thunder, but that seems to be the context, so. Could be voices though still. So hakolot is what then? The voices. What makes it plural? You know that the singular is kol. What about kolot is plural? Through deductive reasoning, you know the singular is kol. What is added to kol? Or if you subtracted kol from kolot, what do you have left? If you subtracted kol from kolot, what is left? Ot. So ot is the feminine plural ending. So that's what makes it plural, is the ot. So the masculine plural is im. The masculine feminine plural is ot. The Hebrew word kol is a feminine word, so it's using the feminine ending there. Okay. And Gidon. Vehabarad. Yes. What is Vehabarad?
Means to hit. Means hit.
Yes, barad is hail.
And the ba means in.
Yep.
And the ha means the.
Yep.
So in the hail.
And the hail. Good. All right. And Shelly.
Matar,
What is it again?
matar.
Did you just say that? Did you say that first part?
Oh my God,
Matar. Okay, I just didn't hear the oo. I just heard matar.
sorry.
That's okay.
I was trying to keep it like monotone and accented on the top.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing it.
Matar is rain.
Yep, matar's rain.
And I want to think that that law with this root is just a conjunction and.
It is the conjunction, yes. Why is it oo in this case instead of ve or va or something like that?
I know there was something with that, and I knew you were gonna ask me. Don't tell me the wrong thing. Is it passive as he said?
No. Not on the front of a noun. If it's in this, like either on the first letter or maybe the second letter, but usually the first letter of the noun, then maybe it would be passive.
The blue mouth rule?
Mm-hmm. What about the boom off rule?
If the first letter of nothing
Mm-hmm.
of that word
Mm-hmm.
normally takes a Scottish whatever.
Mm-mm. You're thinking about the Beged Kafat rule.
Well,
Which the mem is
I
not-
knew what
which
the
the-
blue mouth rule.
So, what letters make up the word boom off?
Well, I know the mem is in it,
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're getting closer now.
Anyway, it has something to do with that. I knew that much.
Because the mem is part of the boom off, right? You have a
Right.
bet, you have a mem, you have a pe, fe, or a shiva in some cases. So the first letter of this word is what?
Mem.
A mem. So because the mem is a part of the boom off rule, if you have a boom off letter that comes after the conjunction, what happens to the conjunction?
It takes
It becomes an oo sound. So the boom off rule is just those letters. Or shiva, if it comes after the conjunction, it just turns to an oo and doesn't change the meaning at all.
and rain.
And rain, yep. Tov. All right, and Pam? That's the first one here?
So, yeah, not low.
Right, low. Yep, it's low. So if the lamed makes the L sound, the chol making the O sounds, that's low, meaning what? Yep, low means no. And then, what about this one here? Let's start with the first consonant and vowel. Yeah, that's a noon. And underneath the noon is a chirik making the E sound. So together, what sound did they make? Just make the sound of the noon, not the name of the noon. Ni. Yep, just ni. Okay, and then we have, what letter is this here? Tav. Tav, making the T sound. And underneath the tav is a patak, making an ah sound. So together, the tav and the patak makes what sound? Ta. And then, do you know what letter this is? That's a chaf sofit. So the chaf sofit makes a cha sound. So if you were to combine the tav with the patak and the cha sound, what sound would that make together? And close it with the cha sound.
Am I pronouncing S not or Rashford?
No, this is the chaf sofit. So here we have the tav. Underneath the tav is a patak, and so it's ta. And if you end that with the cha sound, then you have tach. Tach. So before you had ni, so ni, tach. Nitach. Lo nitach. And do you know what the root of nitach is? Have it on your sheet there.
Yeah,
Natach is the root there.
No,
Natach, which means to pour. That's the generally.
not poured.
It could mean in the sense of raining, but the idea is to pour out, maybe to drop. But it can be used in different contexts there. So we have lo nitan. No, the ret is natach. It has the classic vowel pattern, the kamatz patak, but the vowels are changed here, which means we have a slightly, perhaps different meaning, potentially. Underneath the nun is a chirik, and that can be a sign of one of the binyanim. And if you guys are ever wanting to understand what these are, once again, clicking on the tense is how you're going to do that. And it'll tell you the verb form, which is listing as a stem here, is the nifal. Nifal is the passive form. If you don't know what that is, you just click on the nifal and it'll tell you that it's the passive form, and it'll give you examples. So that's one of the reasons why this resource is really helpful. The form, the sign of the nifal in this particular case is the chirik underneath that nun. And so the writ itself starts with the nun, but that ni sound, that e sound, is that sign of the nifal, which is just a passive form. And so the idea is umatar lo nitach, and the rain was not poured. So the rain itself was not passively poured out. Right. Nehemiah, last word here. Yeah, aretza. It should be a vocal shava in that particular case because a long vowel precedes. Let me just verify that. I'm pretty sure that's the case, though. It should be. No, it's not. Oh, I know why, too. Okay. Yeah, because I usually pronounce it aretza. It's like aretza. Kamatz, the kamatz is a long vowel, and the general rule is if a long vowel comes before shiva, this is one of the vocal shiva rules, is the shiva is to be vocal. There's an exception to that. Does anybody know what the exception is? Did you hear what I said, which is one of the vocal shiva rules? You were listening, were you? Okay. So I'm going to say it again this time. Listen. So if a long vowel, such as a kamatz, comes before shiva, the shiva is usually going to be vocal, and so in that case you would have pronounced it correctly. There's an exception to that. The exception is if the emphasis is placed on that long vowel before the shiva, then the shiva is not vocal. In this case, the siluk shows where the emphasis is going here. If the emphasis was on this side of the word, then it would be aretza. Because the emphasis is here, it's aretza. Yep. Eretz, which means what? Land, yep. It's a good question. It's a kamatz hey. I actually talked about this earlier, not because it was happening in a previous word, but as a potentially what could have been happening, but I didn't think it was. The kamatz hey, and the word eretz, you're not going to put a feminine ending on it, so the kamatz hey is generally going to be a feminine ending, but as you can see here, the word eretz is already a feminine noun. So there would not need to be, there wouldn't be a need to make it more feminine because it's already feminine. Nope. It's called the hey local. Remember me talking about the hey local earlier? It's a directional term. So in this case, you see this fairly often throughout the Tanakh, or when someone's traveling in a certain direction. If you're using the Hebrew word for like Mitzrayim for Egypt, if someone's going towards Egypt, instead of Mitzrayim, it's Mitzrayim ma. Here, arza means toward the earth or toward the ground. So, umatar lo nitach arza is, and the rain was not poured out towards the earth or to the earth. A lot of times that hey local doesn't even get translated. They have it as upon. That would probably work. I'm interested to see what some of these other literals did for the he local there. Toward the earth. Yeah, so they translated it as toward. Young's has it as to. That works too. CLV, the concordant literal version has it as fourth. Probably what they're doing there for the he local. But so once again, if you're looking at a word that has a kamate, it looks like it might be a feminine ending, but it doesn't make sense because either the word's already feminine or you would just, there's certain words you just wouldn't put a feminine ending on, like Mitzrayim, for instance. Then just know it's a directional term, it means towards something. It's an interesting way to do it because it could be confused, but that's apparently what they did. Okay, so let's go ahead and review verse 33, and please read the Hebrew as we go through there. Habanim sheli, Ephal kipelt shochem. Oh, it's on there. I didn't see it. Excellent. Vayitze, Moshe. Ne'im, Paro, et ha'ir. Vayifros, Kapav, El Hashem. Vayachdelu, Hakolot, Vehabarad. Umatar, Lo Nitach, Arza. So the cancellation mark over the Zadi for Vayetze is a Kadma. This Kadma just kind of goes straight up. Kadma, Vayetze. It's a servant trope, so it's a combination. And then we have the Azla, which goes the opposite direction. Azla. So it goes higher. So you have Kadma, Azla. It's like one is trying to overcome the other almost. And so we have Vayetze Moshe. And that Azla is a minor lord, so it breaks up the combination here. And then we have a Mapach. We had that earlier. It's a servant trope. Mapach. Me'im. And then we have the Pashta. You know it's a Pashta and not like a Kadma, because the Kadma is in the center of the letter. The Pashta is to the far left. That's how you can distinguish this from this, because they look otherwise identical. The Pashta is a minor lord sounding like this. Pashta. Paro. And then we have Zakef Katon over the Ayin of Ha'ir. Zakef Katon. Baruch. Write that down. Et Ha'ir. Then we have underneath the resh of Vayifros, the Mercha, and it's followed by Tipcha, so it's the normal Mercha, Tipcha. Mercha. Vayifros. Tipcha, underneath the pay. Tipcha. Kapav. And then El Hashem, underneath the Tetragrammaton there, we have the Etnakta. Etnakta. El Adonai. That's the apostle form. And then we have the another Mapak underneath the Lamed of Vayachdelu. Mapach. Vayachdelu. It's a servant trope, so it's a combination. And another Pashta. Pashta. Hakolot. And then another Zakef Katon. Zakef Katon. Vehabarad. Major lord, apostle. Then we have the Tipcha. Tipcha. Umatar. And then Mercha. Mercha. Lo Nitach. And then Sof Pasuk. Sof Pasuk. Arza. Okay, so let's do our combinations and then we'll be done. We'll be done actually probably a little bit early here. Vayetze Moshe. Me'im Paro. Et ha'ir Gidon. Vayifros Kapav. El Adonai. Vayachdelu hakolot.
Can you do that again?
Vayachdelu hakolot. Vehabarad. Umatar. Lo nitach arza.
Dov me'od. My goodness, we're 9 minutes early, and we did 3 verses. Air high five, everybody. Slap, 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 slap. That's pretty rare. That's pretty rare that happens. Good job. What's that? I did actually went. I went on a few rabbit trails, so not a million. Eventually.
I think what it was,
Adayu
you
de-
guys did so
Oh,
good, it went fast.
What's that again?
They did so good, it went fast.
I know. Told me on. That's
Everybody did.
All right. Why don't we close in prayer? Avinu Malkeinu, we thank you for this wonderful night because we are studying your word. You are in our midst, Abba, and we have brothers and sisters that want to draw closer to you and learn more about your word. Abba, I just thank you that we were able to go through the 3 verses tonight, and I pray that we would take time, Father, throughout the week to continue to rightly divide your word, to be able to understand and do that, to get the tools to be able to fulfill that calling to each believer. And Abba, we just pray that you would hide these things that we're learning in our heart, help us to understand them, and Father, help us to have the zeal and the endurance and the faithfulness and the patience to continue to learn your ways, your language, and your Torah. We bless you and we thank you. In Yeshua's name we pray. Amen. Hashem. Okay, guys, so 33 was our last verse, which means the next 2 verses, at the very minimum, will be 34 and 35. Start your studying now. Don't wait until like the day of the study to start studying. You'll get a lot more if you just break it off in small little bits throughout the week.
No, I meant like, yeah.
Oh. Unfortunately, I don't have an iPhone.
I'll try to print up some more flashcards for you.
Oh,
I don't have this, I can't put TV phones
wow.
because it's my work phone. I lock all that stuff out.
That makes
So
sense.
maybe we can pre-order that new screen this week so I can replace it and then we'll have to.
Why don't we do some chores and buy a screen yourself?
There you go.